already playing, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening and welcome to the Need to Know Podcast, Episode 4, streaming live on this wonderful Friday, June the 1st. This is General Tweed speaking, and I've got Solid MAGA, aka Brett Box, with me here. And Political will be joining us in just a bit.
Oh, yeah, he's a little delayed with his husbandly duties, and not the dirty ones. All right, we're changing up the show format a little bit this week. We are still going around the world before we come back home, but we have made an executive decision to combine our Middle East coverage into one solid segment with some subtopics with them. So, in accordance with that, this week we're going to start with Korea.
And let's jump straight into that then, shall we?
So, he was here after all. Chinese state-controlled media waited until Kim Jong-un was back home before confirming what officials had tried so hard to deny just a day earlier. In the Great Hall of the People, Kim Jong-un and his wife were welcomed like old friends by President Xi Jinping. A brief greeting in Korean was the only time Kim's voice was heard. Appearance is important at times like this. Kim looked like an old-style communist leader, whereas she opted for a business suit. The wives of both men were present during most of the photo opportunities.
The one that Trump got.
This visit was powerful symbolism for
not
both
quite
men,
as big of a parade,
but especially for President Xi, now the first world leader to meet Kim, and a reminder that China still holds sway over its neighbor and ally.
Which is actually really important to remember in the ongoing negotiations.
Like, look at us, look at this. Wait, we actually run this place, not you.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, one of the big topics that's been on the table ever since Trump sent his cancellation letter was the denuclearization, right?
Yeah, it was. Denuclearization along with unification of the entire Korean Peninsula is kind of the whole goal of all this.
Right. But the big thing that was on the table was denuclearization. They didn't want to give up their nukes at first.
Yeah.
And then Trump sent out that letter. He says that, they have to give up their nukes or else, basically. And this week, we're seeing a completely different tone from Korea. It's as if nothing ever happened, and they're completely back on the bandwagon. And we got a clip for that.
Let's see.
Ben is just back from North Korea and joins us now from Beijing. Ben?
Good morning. So this new meeting between the leaders of the two Koreas, unlike their summit last month, was arranged at the last minute, and it was kept secret until after it was over. Now, Kim Jong-un and Moon Jae-in met for 2 hours at the demilitarized zone on Saturday on the North Korean side of the Truce Village. Now, during their talks, President Moon says that Kim Jong-un stated he is committed to the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, and that he still wants to hold a summit with President Trump as originally planned on June 12th. Now, President Moon also said that President Trump has told him that if North Korea fully denuclearizes, then the U.S. will provide the regime security guarantees and economic cooperation. Moon also said the U.S.-North Korea summit is something that could not be allowed to fail. Meanwhile, North and South Korea agreed to hold
almost thought they were holding hands there.
Week, and regular summits between the leaders to improve relations. They say they want to implement the agreement that they made at their summit last month that calls for an end to hostilities on the Korean Peninsula and eventually a formal end to the Korean War.
Well, that's a nice tie.
Yeah, no joke. It's nice to see that everything's back on.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I mean, it's almost
peace all around.
Yeah, good peace. Let's get rid of those nukes and let's have ourselves a nice capitalist Northern Korea. Yeah, why not?
Right. So I thought we would take this time now to kind of do a bit of a sit rep for the North Korean diplomatic situation. And the person that we're going to listen to an interview from, it's a bit long, which is why this is one of our bigger chunks of the show. But this gentleman that gets interviewed, they call him an ambassador. That really doesn't do him justice because he's not an ambassador. He has the ambassadorial rank that was given to him when he used to serve for the White House. His job was to serve as a military advisor, an ambassador, basically a government lobbyist, to try to figure out the problem of man-portable missiles attacking aircraft. So man-portable anti-aircraft weapons, basically. And so his area of expertise was actually in the Asian theater, and he had a lot of stuff going on with North Korea when he was in. He was also a military advisor. So he's actually a really good person to get an opinion from. And I'm kind of glad that we have this clip, although it is a little long, just to warn our audience.
Well, this will be a pretty good primer then. Let's go right in.
All right, here now to react is former Ambassador Lincoln Bloomfield, who served as a national security official under Presidents Reagan, Bush 41 and 43. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. What do you make of this #2 guy coming to New York?
Well, I think you've seen, Melissa, a lot of lowering of expectations coming out of South Korea, coming out of our CIA, if you read the press, coming out of the White House. They don't want to aim too high and then miss. And by the way, nobody can really make the decision on whether to try to end the Korean War, not only denuclearize, but draw down their conventional weapons that are aimed at the South Koreans, except for Kim Jong-un. So his most empowered deputy, Kim Jong-il, Kim Yong-chul is in New York with the pump.
This guy's name is really difficult to pronounce.
Yes,
a lot of Kims jumping
Kim
around.
Kim Jong-un really wants to go for an end of the war, a full denuclearization, an opening of North Korea to the world. The same things President Trump has talked about. None of that is going to be passed through staffs anyway. So I wouldn't bet against the the staffers who are lowering expectations. That's been the history for 30 years. But it is possible that something rather major could happen here. And if it's not something major, President shouldn't go to Singapore. And you really can't change the situation.
It does give you an indication that they wanted to get everybody else out of the middle. You know, the idea that he's coming here makes you feel like whether it was South Korea that was getting in the middle and maybe muddling the message, or if it was China, the direct talks are certainly really interesting. One thing that caught my attention was Russia's Foreign Minister Lavrov going to Pyongyang at basically the same time. What does that tell you?
Well, the Korean Peninsula was originally divided by two lieutenant colonels, the United States and the Soviet Union, at the end of World War II, taking the surrender of the Japanese. So the Soviet Union and then Russia has a long history. In fact, the entire history of North Korea has been done in conjunction, or there's been a sort of a seminal role for the Russians. Of course, China has a much closer relationship now, but the Russians are very interested in what's going to come out of this. They have interests to protect.
No doubt. What do you think he's saying? I mean, what
everybody's
kind of
got an
advice do you
interest
think
in
that he's
Korea.
getting? What is he telling them not to do?
Yeah.
My guess is that Lavrov wants to find out what's the deal here. Is Kim Jong-un really going to go for the whole thing? Is he really going to try to have a full rapprochement where you have a unification of North and South Korea under some terms, where you do a dramatic denuclearization, but also a drawdown of conventional weapons that protects Japan, where China's interests are protected? It's a very big deal. And is he going to do that? And how are Russia's interests going to be affected? The one thing I would say is that Lavrov, the one thing to watch for is whether the Russians kind of throw any wrench in the works and slow things down.
Yeah.
That would be very bad.
I mean, it's very insulting to the Russians if, as we keep hearing, the reason why Kim Jong-un is motivated to do this is because he wants security and he wants to know that he can stay in his position. Ostensibly, that's what the Russians were giving him before, was that kind of support. So wouldn't they feel threatened and sort of cut out if he's looking to America to secure him?
They may feel diplomatically or geopolitically marginalized, but look at the facts. The more Kim Jong-un was building up ballistic missiles and nuclear weapons, the more he was drawing the United States military and our 5 treaty allies in Asia, into a ring that was not only a threat to North Korea, but also, I think, a threat to China. I think the Chinese military didn't want that to happen. They reacted badly to the missile defense that we put in South Korea. And so I think that China understands the way to keep the Americans from showing up in force is to have some kind of a drawdown. And nuclear weapons by North Korea could create radiation problems for the Chinese. There's a lot of reasons why China actually wants to see this happen under the right terms. Russia is a little bit more of a bystander.
All right, Ambassador, we're out of time. Thank you for...
Well,
there was a lot of information, right?
it was a lot to get in there, yeah.
So one of the big things that he laid out there was that you remember we reported when we first started the show, we were reporting on Iran, and we were reporting on what happened when the Iran deal stopped.
Yes, we
were. One of the big things that we had a problem with our European allies was that they were pushing back against us because they got trade deals out of the sanctions dropping, and reinitiating the sanctions meant that they lost a lot of money.
Money is the center of all these deals, isn't it?
Yes. So Russia, the reason they're sending Lavrov over there isn't just, to see what they're going to do. No, they want a damn energy deal. Russia's main foreign policy tenet is that they want to have a strong energy or controlling energy industry, because they feel like that's where a lot of economic power is going to be in the next several decades. So they're trying to explore new energy contracts and trade deals.
Nuclear energy, or are we talking about building a pipeline?
Everything, pipelines, nuclear, all of it.
Ooh, that's a lot of energy.
Yeah, we could spend a week getting into uranium one.
We'll get there.
All right. So moving on, I got a little bit of footage. It's a bit of a sacrificial lamb clip about the North Korean missile test sites being blown up. Russia Today has some source footage for that.
Behind me is Northern Tunnel number 2. That's where 5 most recent nuclear tests have been conducted. Out of 4 tunnels around here, this one got the most battering. So basically, this is North Korea saying, look, we are ready to
pause that for a second. I never considered this when I was actually making the show notes, but Lavrov also may have been there to get permission for Russia Today to come out and do this report.
That's a hell of a good point. Damn. Just put the 2 and 2 together. Shit. You just
I never thought about that until just now.
Just blew my mind. Let's finish this
clip.
clip.
Let's keep going.
The first step. This is the first step that we're making to show that we are acting in good faith. We are destroying all the facilities. We are being told that what has been done today has rendered this site absolutely useless.
Absolutely useless.
Yep.
Useless
nuclear There's a bunch of shots of them blowing up like nuclear sites and blowing holes in mountains, stuff like that. It's all pretty much sacrificial, like, hey, we're doing this so that we can, get our deal.
Look, love me now. Deal with us now, please.
Right. So I don't know, this news story, it just broke while I was reading all this stuff this morning and getting all our final news clips, and I finally got a news clip of it this morning. I think it's from last night that it was released here this morning. But either way, Good Morning America reported on it this morning, and I managed to get a clip of it. So do you remember we had that story about Mike Pompeo was meeting the Korean intelligence chief that nobody can remember the name of in New York?
Indeed, I do remember. I think the name also was Kim.
Yes, and he actually hand-delivered a letter from Kim Jong-un to the White House today.
Well, let's see.
The latest now on the nuclear summit with North Korea. The top North Korean official who met with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo here in New York is now heading to the White House. The first visit from a North Korean official since President Clinton was in office, as both sides work to get the summit back on track. Let's start with our chief global affairs anchor, Martha Redditon. Martha, we expect President Trump to be given a letter from Kim Jong-un.
Exactly, George. And this is only the second time in history that a North Korean official has visited the White House. And this official is on the sanctions list and had to get a special waiver to even get in the country. But the North's chief negotiator has that special delivery for President Trump, a personal letter from Kim Jong-un. We don't know exactly what is in the letter, but we now have a strong hint. This morning, after a meeting with Russia.
I just got to pause right there. I really like it, like that shot right there of him just looking through binoculars, just looking all serious, but knowing that he's not actually looking at anything.
Someone needs to put Pepe on the lens.
Foreign Minister Kim reaffirmed his commitment to denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, saying he hoped for a phased process in resolving the issue and hoped it could be solved on a stage-by-stage basis. Of course, there has still not been any official announcement that the summit will take place on June 12th. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said after meeting with the North Koreans that there has been significant progress, and he believes North Korea wants a path forward. But exactly what that means from the North Korean point of view is unclear, although President Trump did say this week it may take several meetings to work this out. He also said he is very much looking forward to receiving the letter this afternoon from Kim Jong-un. George.
We got to work out on this relationship, man.
I know. It's getting to be a little ridiculous. I almost think that Trump has a secret and not so secret admirer.
Oh, yeah, probably. Yeah. I would think so. I mean, after all, he did read Art of the Deal.
That's true. He does know when to make a move.
I didn't know when they printed it in Korean. Anyway.
They said, didn't we report? I think we actually mentioned that Dennis Rodman took took Kim Jong-un a copy of Art of the Deal.
That we did. Yes, we did.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Just like we said, we're going to jump into our Middle East coverage. Just going to touch base with Iran. We don't have a whole lot going on there, but it looks like the sanctions are having real political fruits. We're generating fruits of our labor this week.
Let's see.
Lots of political unrest, lots of protest.
Admitted to the hospital more than a week ago. Doctors initially said it was for a minor medical issue after ear surgery earlier this month.
What? Need 5.
Oh,
number 5. Not number 6.
Hit the wrong one. Oh. All right. Let's try this again.
Recent protests inside Iran have been deadly, with security forces turning their weapons on their own people and threatening to resolutely confront growing unrest over economic struggles. The regime has also lashed out at the U.S. and Israel, accusing them of trying to trick protesters. Today, the Israeli prime minister spoke directly to the Iranian people on Twitter.
The Iranian people are brilliant. They're innovative. So why is Iran so poor? Why is unemployment so rampant? The answer is in 2 words: the regime.
U.S. officials have also been quick to blame Tehran's corruption and mismanagement for the country's economic troubles.
Workers aren't getting paid. Strikes are a daily occurrence, and the rial is plummeting. Youth unemployment is at a staggering 25%.
The rial.
Analysts suggest the anger isn't solely about economic concerns.
The recent protests, including the nationwide bus and truck driver strikes, are actually designed to say that politics and economics are linked in the Islamic Republic, and those who want a better lot in life also want a better government.
President Trump's decision to pull out of the Iran nuclear deal is giving the regime ammunition to take a hard line with French energy company Total. It has 60 days to negotiate with the U.S. government to secure an exemption from American sanctions. Otherwise, Iran's oil minister is threatening to give control of the world's largest gas field to a Chinese state-owned company. This as the Trump administration is putting the financial squeeze on Tehran and trying to win over its people.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I say that I am an oil man, you will agree.
It looks almost like sanctions work, yeah?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for once, instead of just being an angry letter that we send that nobody responds to.
Well, our sanctions weren't as drastic, aggressive as they were before, I would say. Plus, they got used to all that trade money.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about all that trade money.
Lots of trade money, man.
Lots of deals.
Moving right along to our biggest ally in the region, Israel. I just want to make a note. This segment is fully submitted by a local feminine. She's requested that we don't mention her name when she contributes, but she knows who she is.
Thanks, Rhonda. Oh, crap.
Right?
No, I'm kidding.
So last week we had heard about the Palestinian president may have been admitted to the hospital. We weren't really sure why. Looks like we got a little bit of an answer on that. It sounds like pneumonia, and we got actually a local news report.
Admitted to the hospital more than a week ago. Doctors initially said it was for a minor medical issue after ear surgery earlier this month. Then the hospital admitted it was a much more serious medical issue, a severe bout of pneumonia that made it difficult for Abbas to stand up, walk, or even breathe on his own. He was also experiencing chest pain and dizziness. But doctors said over the last few days his health had greatly improved. Abbas spoke with reporters within the last few minutes about his health now.
We also extend our thanks and appreciation to all leaders, prime ministers, kings, presidents, princes, brothers, Arabs and non-Arabs, who have kindly asked about me and wished me well. I'm thankful to all, and thank you all here as well.
Seems like he's feeling much better, even though he's taking time off. And they celebrated by having rocket strikes. No, I'm joking. We don't actually know why they sent the rockets over, but there have been increased rocket strikes in Israel along the Palestinian border, and one lucky reporter got to catch Iron Dome in action.
Updates as we were speaking to you just a few moments ago that we could see and hear essentially mortar shells being fired apparently into or directed at northern Israel, and I'm getting some sort of indication from my cameraman here. Right, we can hear sirens in the distance, and yeah, my app is going off. This is happening live, and there you go.
Oh, look at that.
Those are interceptions. That's unmistakable. I think you heard that.
You hear that slap?
Oh, yeah, I heard that slap.
That's how far away they are.
Oof. So I wonder if that works like lightning strikes. You see it, and then you just count in every 5 seconds.
It is, actually. So he mentioned an app. For context, people out there, they all have this app on their smartphones that tell them when there's a rocket attack so that they can try to take shelter. The clip goes on for a while. I clipped it down to this size because we really don't need him to explain things to us. But basically, this happens quite frequently. So the locals are used to seeing Iron Dome in effect. One of the interesting caveats to Iron Dome is that it will not defend over unpopulated areas. So if there's a big open field, you need to get out of it. Because anything that's going to land there is just going to land there. Iron Dome will not defend against that. It only defends like big infrastructure and suburban areas. So that's something to keep in mind. The reporter gets asked about it, and he says, well, there's no shelter, but we're here.
Gives a whole new meaning to there's an app for that.
Sure does. So that being said, Israel had a response to that. They decided to launch some airstrikes. Some people are calling it heavy-handed. Others think people should stop shooting rockets at people that have jets.
Israel's military confirmed it launched an air attack on Gaza on Tuesday, hitting military sites that belong to Hamas and Islamic Jihad. Israel Defense Forces claim they shot down most of the dozens of mortar shells Gaza militants launched at Israel earlier in the day. 3 Israeli soldiers were hurt, with one suffering moderate injuries. It's unclear if the airstrikes injured anyone in Gaza. The exchange is believed to be the largest military attacks between the two sides since the 2014 Israel-Gaza war. Tensions between Palestinians and Israelis have risen in recent months. More than 100 Palestinians were killed at the Gaza-Israel border since violent protests started in late March, prompting a UN investigation.
Another Kim. This is like a whole episode of Kim's.
Yeah, no joke. The Kimpocalypse. I like that news network. They don't have a whole lot of subscriptions or anything, but they're right to the point. I've got another one in here like that. And we show a couple indie news networks that do that. Their sourcing is pretty good. They go off of news articles online. They get their own footage. I'm really glad that we have a bunch of these little networks popping up online.
Oh, it's all thanks to the internet. All thanks to the internet.
All right, we're going to keep going through the Middle East. We're going to skip this little note that I've got here, and we're going to go... We got some Europe coverage this week. Did I tell you about that?
I don't think you did.
We don't usually have a whole lot of stuff from Europe because, let's face it, we don't really understand the political situation out there, but there's 2 major stories that we need to cover. It's pretty important that we take a look at them. We're going to start with Italy, Italy seems to be in a bit of financial crisis, and Russia Today covers it pretty well.
All right, let's see.
Italy faces renewed political deadlock after the Prime Minister-designate said that he has failed to form a government. Now that's because the populist coalition's choice for economy minister has been vetoed by the country's president.
In the coming hours, I will make a decision on holding a snap parliamentary election, taking into account the views of political forces and parliament.
Well, this is the man in question, Paolo Savona, who's got decades of experience in finance and once served as industry minister. But he's also known for vocal criticism of the EU and wants Italy to drop the euro, which he's branded a German cage. And one of Italy's populist leaders is sure that the German establishment played a role in Savona being vetoed.
German journalists and politicians insult us. Italians are beggars, lazy, tax evaders, freeloaders and ungrateful people. And we should choose a finance minister that they like. No thanks.
Well, this is one of the front pages that Salvini cited as an example of German media bias. It shows a van painted in the colours of the Italian flag falling off a cliff. The caption calls Italy Europe's big disobedient child.
Oh, boy.
It's kind of a big stick to wag at him, yeah?
Yeah, a really big stick.
So, now, there's a lot to break down there, right? They say, basically, it seems like more the EU is pressuring Italy to stay in. And Italy's thinking about leaving. We had that thing with Spain and Catalonia. I mean, independence is on the rise in Europe right now, right?
Oh, we gotta say thank you for that. That's a good thing.
Exactly. Well, not everyone's saying thank you for that. George Soros managed to get his word out through CNN. And I have not seen, let me be clear, I have not seen more blatant messaging than this in at least a few months. This is pretty egregious.
Peter Tuckman is a floor broker at Quattro Securities. Peter, I've not been in New York to give you
Look at
grief
that. It even
face to
says
face.
Soros wants a crisis.
We will miss you, Richard. We miss you. I will be back soon. Tell me, what was the main movement today? What were you most concerned about?
What
terrifies
you the most?
It's a matter of what the market focus on, right? We've seen a major move in oil over the last few
He
days.
looks like
after
Einstein,
a huge
so he
rally,
must be the
and that
smartest
really
man in the room.
didn't spook the market that much. But we saw this coming in this morning. The original, obviously, the catalyst was what's going on in Italy over the weekend, right? So whether there's dissent within Italy per se politically is one thing,
he said
but if
catalyst.
there's any global contagion, okay, which
Global
just
contagion.
flows
Okay, so pause
over.
it for a second. So Italy is having economic issues, and they're worried that they're going to drop the euro. And they're afraid that that idea is so contagious and viral that it's going to spread to the rest of Europe.
Oh my god.
That's what he's saying right now. Look at the look on his face.
Oh, I love the shot
my
that I caught
Lord.
about.
That's perfect. Hold that.
Mad
Hold that
scientist
right
face.
there.
Mad scientist
oh my God.
face.
That is so perfect. Print screen. Got it. All right. Go on.
Outside of Italy and the question whether they're going to stay in the EU or not, and any fears about that seemed to really start cracking the facade of the market per se. So we've seen that. It brought back memories of the whole Greek financial crisis a number of years ago. It's rare that this market really responds to geopolitical situations like North Korea or whatnot and really breaks the market. But when it has a much bigger, broader effect on the financials, we saw the financials get hit pretty hard today. So where there's a question whether any of our financial institutions have exposure to Italian debt and whatnot, I don't think that's the factor. I think it's the spillover into the potential that complete dissent within Italy could cause some problems as far as their relationship in the EU.
That was a lot of messaging there.
Seriously, right? It's so hard.
Oh no, what if they come up with their own currency?
Oh no, they might decide to do something that I don't want them to do. I need to freak out.
They might be independent. We can't have that. We can't have people being independent.
No, they need to be ruled by some guy in Brussels, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Do you
let those
remember-
unelected bureaucrats, they know what's best.
Do you remember who made a big stink about that in Britain?
No, I don't, actually.
My favorite British politician, Nigel Farage.
Ooh, let's hear what he has.
So, well, hold on.
Oh,
It's-
okay.
the clip, the Farage clip we have isn't actually about the Italian, maybe Italia exit. There's actually been a big issue in the UK this week, and there's not a whole lot of coverage on it because they were actually gagged from talking about it. And we need to talk about something with British law for a second. there's a precedent in British law where they believe that if you report on something in the media, the reporting poisons the jury. So in the States, you can be disqualified from being in a jury if you know the defendant or you're related to the defendant in some way, and there's not enough degrees of separation between you and the defendant.
It's called sequestering a jury.
Exactly. So it's the same way in Europe, in the UK, but they take it a little bit more seriously than we do. So Tommy Robinson was outside of the the famous grooming gang trial that was going on last week. And let's face it, the grooming gang, they got a really light sentence. They didn't go to prison at all. But Tommy Robinson, who I believe is on probation or parole, I forget what it's called over there, he was there reporting on the trial, asking the defendants questions, and he got arrested. Now, that being said, the way that he got arrested, the judge sentenced him before they went to trial. And the judge who sentenced him may actually be the judge who witnessed the crime, which is illegal in UK law. You can't be the same person. So that ruling may be null and void. But as it stands right now, Tommy Robinson is in prison. And Tommy Robinson pleaded guilty to contempt of court and disturbing the peace, I believe. That being said, I think we should listen to a British commentator about what he has to say, because he's familiar with British politics. And Nigel Farage is definitely, I think, well equipped to deliver that for us.
Tommy Robinson has been jailed for 13 months for contempt of court. And to many people, this is absolute proof that we're moving into a police state, that something truly awful is happening. Well, you've got half a point, folks, but only half a one. Let's be clear. Tommy Robinson was under a court order not to interfere with the judicial process in any way at all. He chose, for reasons of self-publicity, and not to benefit anything that would help society, he chose willfully to breach that. He was warned that he was in breach of that, decided to continue. Frankly, the judge had almost no choice but to give him a jail sentence.
No choice.
So I think Robinson, frankly, was out there asking for trouble, and I don't think it was a very bright thing to do. Now, against that, let me just say that there does appear to be a very strong desire and willingness amongst much of the police and our judiciary to clamp down on people who make certain criticisms in society, and we are not dealing here with a level playing field. The whole point about religious freedom and tolerance is we should all be able to criticise and even mock each other, and I do worry that we're moving into a position where you can criticise some groups in society but not criticise others. And I think for those of you who see Robinson as a hero, well, okay, maybe he does stand up for his point of view. But believe you me, his imprisonment in this case is not heroic in any way at all. And that, of course, will surprise some of you. But let me just say this finally. The fact we weren't allowed to talk about this for several days because of reporting restrictions is just a nonsense, because the internet has been awash with it. And the reason is the legislation covering reporting restrictions came in 1982 when, well, hardly anybody even had a computer.
Yep. So that's what I was talking about, was they put these restrictions in when barely anybody had a computer.
Huh.
So their idea was people reading the newspaper, that's where they got all their news. Well, shit, these days it doesn't matter what happens. You put it, like, if something happens, it winds up on the internet. There's nothing you can do about it. So the law just seems very silly.
You can never remove it from the internet either. Now, what was the whole reason for this? What was he filming again?
I'm sorry, come again?
What was he covering? What was Tommy Robinson covering?
Oh, the grooming trial. So there's this London grooming gang, it's this Muslim gang that has been recruiting underage women and, well, I should say underage girls into sex slavery. Basically, it's a horrifying trial. It's been pretty bad. I've been waiting for the trial to kind of come to a head, to maybe do some reporting on it. It looks like it's getting dismissed, honestly.
And
but the Tommy Robinson thing took precedent because it really shows
that
the
coverage of
Orwellian
that sort of
state
thing
of
is just
UK.
not happening. Like,
Well, I mean, if you think about this, and then you think about the Nazi pug trial that happened recently, like there's a big problem with journalism in the UK and freedom of speech and all these things.
they really are using 1984 as a manual there, and here, possibly Brave New World. But then again, that's just me being with a tinfoil hat on, so...
Pretty hopeful, yeah. All right, so our next video, I'm going to warn you right away, I couldn't find a good video for this topic, but it's kind of important. So I found a video of a guy reading, I think, an article, but otherwise he covers it pretty well. The guy's pretty well spoken. Basically what happened is China and the U.S. had a bit of a tussle over some ships and their location in disputed waters near the South China Sea. What else is new when you're building islands down there?
I didn't know you could build islands to begin with.
China's military announced Sunday that it had dispatched warships to challenge 2 U.S. Navy vessels that sailed through waters in the South China Sea that China claims as its own. The Chinese confronted the U.S. ships and warned them to leave, the Ministry of National Defense
I put my dirt here.
in a
It's
statement
mine.
posted on its website, but other details of the encounter were not immediately clear. The U.S. vessels, the Higgins, a destroyer, and the Antiem, a cruiser, passed within 12 nautical miles of the Paracel Islands in the northern part of the disputed waters of the South China Sea off the coast of Vietnam. The chief spokesman for China's Ministry of National Defense, Senior Colonel
Does this remind you of anything from
Wang,
last week?
said that the United
Kind of.
States gravely violated
The bomber
Chinese
from Russia, right?
sovereignty.
Yeah.
The high seas
It's almost like we do this all the time,
while
right?
not
Yeah.
unprecedented, come as tensions have been rising between the United States and China on a number of fronts, from trade to the on-again, off-again talks with North Korea.
So that's pretty much that story. There's a lot going on down there in the South China Sea. As you saw, they're building up that base. The clip goes on to talk about how they're actually landing strategic bombers down there. They just landed their first one last week and made a big news report about it. All right, one more big note for U.S. military news this week. Mattis was on site to relieve the current Pacific Command and oversee the transfer of power between the current admiral and the oncoming admiral.
Our 2018 National Defense Strategy is the first of its kind in a decade, and it acknowledges the Pacific challenges and signals America's resolve and lasting commitment to the Indo-Pacific. Americans' vision is shared by most nations in the region, where every state's sovereignty is respected, no matter its size, and it's a region open to investment and free, fair, and reciprocal trade, not bound by any nation's predatory economics or threat of coercion.
That sounds like a very good message. Solid MAGA, you there?
Sorry, I killed my mic for some reason. What I was saying is that this is their direct message to the Chinese down in the South China Sea. They're basically just posturing, showing like we're not going to back down about it. That's why the ships got so close. That's why he's messaging that in his speech. That's kind of been our policy going forward on those islands, is we're not really going to do anything about it, but we're pretty unhappy and we're going to harass you until you change what you're doing. That's how I read it anyway.
I don't know how I feel about that.
It should be noted that that's been successful for us in the past. Works pretty good. One other thing that is worth noting this week, there were some articles that were out about the Marines are getting access to this Switchblade drone. Apparently they've had these Switchblade drones in development since 2012, but basically it's a man-portable drone system that they'll be able to use in their backpack. I found some videos that are like instructional, like graphics from the 2012 about them, but nothing of them being deployed lately.
Switchblade drone deployable from backpack. You're talking something like an Estes rocket or something?
Yeah, it comes as a tube. It launches out of the tube with a rocket, and then it has a propeller on the nose. The wings pop out the sides, and you can pilot it around. It carries something like 4 micro missiles.
Ooh, goddamn, that sounds awesome. I wonder how soon that'll be available on Amazon.
Don't know, but apparently they're using all kinds of drones on the battlefield that they don't really talk about too much.
Probably for good reason.
Yeah, I can imagine. All right, so moving on from U.S. military, now we're back home. So since we're back home, I think everyone wants to hear about the update to the Trump investigation. Not a whole lot has happened this week. Giuliani is coming out and telling us no Mueller interview without a review of the Russia probe info, which actually is classified. So there's a bit of a struggle over that.
President Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, says the president should refuse an interview with special counsel Robert Mueller unless a condition is met. Giuliani says the president's lawyer should be allowed to review classified information shared with top lawmakers showing how the Russia investigation began. Paula Reed is at the White House. Paula, good morning.
Good morning. While the president's lawyers negotiate the terms of a possible interview between the president and special counsel, the president and his allies are pushing out messages to sow doubt about the eventual outcome of the Russia investigation.
Now, we're a year and a half later, and there's no proof of collusion. So stop the investigation.
President Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, says the Mueller probe has come up empty, despite the fact that Mueller has charged 19 people and 3 businesses with over 100 criminal counts. Giuliani also claims it's been tarnished by what he and Mr. Trump call Spygate, alleging, without evidence, that the Trump campaign was improperly spied on.
Everything wrong with the government spying on a candidate of the opposition party. That's a Watergate, a Spygate.
This follows a common playbook for the president.
We now call it Spygate. You're calling it Spygate.
He crafts a narrative to undermine the Russia probe and then pushes it out on Twitter and through allies.
There is no question that there was a spy that was collecting information.
Over the weekend, the president tweeted at least half a dozen times about the Russia probe, alleging politically motivated spying. The only collusion, he wrote, is with the Dems, Justice, FBI, and Russia.
Kind of seems like we got more proof of that than we do of collusion between him and the Russians, don't we?
There is. So there was an interview with Trey Gowdy this week that I didn't actually get clipped, but it explains why they're able to say, oh, there was no spy in the campaign. And it's because of the language everyone's using. Because Trump is saying spy, they can say there's no spy. Do you want to know why?
Why?
Because spy indicates an espionage term. FBI isn't espionage. Informant isn't espionage. Informant is law enforcement. So they can claim that there's no spy and that his story is untruthful because technically it is. The essence of his story, though, I mean, this is very much the way that Trump speaks, right? Trump doesn't say words like informant. He doesn't say words like onomatopoeia. He says, like, it's a spy. That's a sound that I make with my mouth when I'm trying to imitate something. Like, he'll say something simple that everyone can understand and brings it down to their level. That's why he says spy. That's why they say it's not, applicable. And I mean, come on.
They didn't even say applicable.
Are we really going to listen to leaky little Schiff?
Not this guy. Not here. Not with Schiff.
Right.
No shit from Schiff. Come on.
Well, let's get a little bit of a palate cleanser on that. The judge is back in town, and he has some criticism for Jeff Sessions.
President Trump once again expressing buyer's remorse for picking Jeff Sessions as his attorney general. In a tweet, he quotes Trey Gowdy saying, "There are lots of really good lawyers in the country. He could have picked somebody else," adding, "and I wish I did!" exclamation point.
Yeah, that was yesterday. Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Napolitano has been thinking about that since that came out. Judge, you love the law. You understand the attorney general job and the presidential job. We've never seen anything quite like this.
No.
Did Jeff Sessions make a mistake staying in that job?
Yes. Jeff Sessions, in my view, and I say this as a personal friend, we have a lot of mutual friends that I've known him for years. It pains me to be critical of a friend, but I have to be intellectually honest. Jeff Sessions shouldn't have accepted the job. He should have said, you know what, Mr. President, at this point, Trump is the president-elect. This is a job I've wanted all my life. I've prepared for it and I've aspired to it. but I am going to be in the middle of this Russian investigation. As illegitimate as I think it is, and as you know it to be, it's going to happen, and I'm going to be a witness. So if I become Attorney General, I got to step aside from being in charge of this. Now, we have hindsight, and it's 2020. He didn't do that. Second opportunity to do that. Mr. President, I think I have to recuse myself. I know you don't want me to do that, but here's why the law compels me to recuse myself. And then set forth the DOJ reasons.
But what did he do?
He didn't even tell the president he was going to do it. He announced it at a press conference. The president was as shocked as the rest of us. But, Brian, at the time he said, here's my recusal because you sign it. Here's my resignation. You can accept both, Mr. President, because the President of the United States is entitled to an Attorney General in whom he has confidence and trust. The best relationship we had, they were brothers, JFK and RFK. Even Nixon and Mitchell. Mitchell went to jail, but they were former law partners. They could talk a half dozen times a day. They didn't have to talk through the media. The President didn't have to threaten the AG to get things done.
Well, and we've seen, if you look at North Korea, when you have a great relationship like he does with Mike Pompeo, things can happen, things can get done. Why isn't Jeff Sessions stepping down now so that the president can appoint someone else?
I believe, and I may be mistaken as to whether it was the New York Times or the Washington Post that reported this, that Jeff Sessions has twice sent in letters of resignation, and Donald Trump has written rejected and had it hand-delivered back to him. Now, sometimes the president, and we all know this because we know him, negotiates in public. Back. So sometimes the harsh criticisms like, I wish I did pick another lawyer, is not a way of saying, get out of my life. It's a way of saying, come into my life. Be more like I want you to be. Because if Jeff Sessions were to resign today, Rod Rosenstein becomes the acting Attorney General, and the Senate will not confirm anybody before Election Day.
I love that the judge always wears pinstripe suits. He looks like a gangster.
Well, pinstripe suits are, that's where it's at, man. Oh, hey, we got political with us.
Oh.
Look who joined. Welcome.
What up, guys? Sorry, I had an emergency. Go pick up my wife from the airport.
No, it's all good. We're actually right about to talk about Dinesh D'Souza here in a minute. Just a few last notes on that video. Sessions has really been taking a lot of heat this last year, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like everybody's just shitting on him.
Well, he's gotta be tight-lipped, man.
And like we haven't even heard much from him, have we? Actually, have we?
What do you mean?
Like from himself, his own words. Has he gone on to any shows, talked, said anything, or no?
There's a reason they call him Stealth Sessions, man.
Yeah, bro.
He's been pretty quiet.
He's definitely been quiet, and he always has a smile on his face.
Like a little Yoda. All right. So now that we're done with the U.S. military news, we've got our little Trump investigation update. You know, basically, we covered the basics. Giuliani has told us that they're not going to do a meeting unless Trump gets to see the documents, which are classified. And, well, Judge Napolitano has some choice words for Session. Moving on. Do you guys remember Dinesh D'Souza?
Not fairly well. Maybe you want to refresh my memory?
So he got caught for campaign finance violation. Basically, he paid too much money for the Trump campaign and then got other people to pay for it. And I think it was a Trump campaign. I don't remember if it was a Trump campaign off the top of my head. Come to think of it. But he got in trouble for not only donating too much himself, but he would get other people to donate and then he would reimburse them.
You donated too much money.
Yes. So he definitely did it on purpose. But, you know. That being said, Trump pardoned him, and we've got a bit of a clip about that. And this is another one of those news sources that I was talking about earlier, where it's a third-party news source. They're not very big on the internet, but they do a good job.
Let's listen in.
U.S. President Donald Trump has pardoned conservative commenter Dinesh D'Souza, who pleaded guilty in 2014 to making illegal campaign contributions. On May 31st, Trump tweeted that he was pardoning D'Souza, writing that he was treated very unfairly by our government. D'Souza is serving 5 years probation for illegally using straw donors to support Republican Senate candidate Wendy Long in 2012. He previously served 8 months in a halfway house for the felony crime and was ordered to pay a $30,000 fine. The White House issued a statement explaining Trump believed D'Souza was the victim of selective prosecution for violations of campaign finance laws and that he accepted responsibility for his actions. Trump is reportedly also considering presidential clemency for others, including former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich and lifestyle guru Martha Stewart. For United News International, from Washington, D.C., I'm Caitlin Mangum.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Pardoning Rod Blagojevich and Martha Stewart. Now that would be
gangster.
The absolute madman.
All right. So, does she sound like the Enterprise computer?
But the Enterprise didn't have the Enterprise didn't have a computer that spoke back to them.
What do you think, Political? You think she sounds like the Enterprise computer?
I don't know about the Enterprise, bro.
All right. So, Dinesh D'Souza, in trouble for making campaign contributions, gets pardoned by Trump. Well, a couple weeks ago, there were a bunch of news stories circling about Rosie O'Donnell, and now there is a bunch of people going, hey, well, what about this? Check out our next clip.
I think that's that D word that I was looking for earlier.
Yes.
So let's get to a really happy news story. Rosie O'Donnell is in trouble with the law. If justice is blind, Rosie O'Donnell may now be headed to the clink. We are joined for comment by President Donald Trump. Mr. President, your reaction.
I like to see bad people fail. Rosie failed. I'm happy about it. She's basically a disaster. Well, she called me a snake oil salesman. And, coming from Rosie, that's pretty low because when you look at her and when you see the mind is weak. I don't see it. I don't get it. I never understood. How does she even get on television? I believe Barbara made a terrible mistake putting her on, and I think Barbara's probably paying a big price.
Jesus.
When you see the mind, you're totally right, Mr. President. The mind is weak. The mind is weak. So Rosie apparently made illegal campaign donations on 5 separate occasions. And when you donate to a political candidate, there is a limit for campaign donations. In this case, I believe the limit's $2,700, and Rosie exceeded it, apparently vastly exceeded it. So you might recall, you're having deja vu all over again, Dinesh D'Souza, the conservative filmmaker and columnist, he did this too. He did this exact same thing for his friend Wendy Long. And I was working races in New York when Wendy Long was running in this race. Wendy Long was his old pal from Dartmouth. She was never going to win this Senate seat in New York. And he donated $20,000 to her instead of the legal limit. So he donated over the limit. One, certainly not enough money to make any difference in politics. And two, a race that was unwinnable. It just wasn't going to happen. For this great crime, Dinesh, for giving a little extra money to his old college pal in a race that was never going to win.
Okay,
he was sentenced to 5 years probation.
Let's be real. He did commit a crime.
Yeah, he did.
8 months in a halfway house and a $30,000 fine. The reason that Dinesh got this, usually these cases aren't prosecuted. The reason that he was prosecuted and sent to the clink is because he was a major critic of Barack Obama. He made these films against Barack Obama. He was a relentless critic of Obama. So he was selectively prosecuted and sentenced to absurd time for this minor first-time offense. Rosie O'Donnell.
Yep. So that was Michael Knowles from the Daily Wire. He's basically the second guy with Ben Shapiro over there. So I don't agree with everything he says. I definitely think that he was couching his opinion on Dinesh D'Souza a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Yeah,
the man committed a crime. He committed a crime. He's been pardoned for it. Doesn't matter why he's been pardoned. He just has. Did he commit that bad of a crime? I don't think so.
Yeah, well, I mean...
So I think that it's the spotlight technique that Donald Trump likes to do. He likes to shine the spotlight, whether it's going to hurt him or not, in the right direction.
Well, they call him Teflon Don for a reason. Nothing really sticks to him, but it'll stick to whoever else he's putting it to.
No shit. He has shown that a million times, campaign and throughout the first 2 years of his presidency now. Man, we're in the second year of the Donald Trump presidency.
He said we were not going to get tired. We said we were going to get tired of winning. Not tired
I'm
yet.
not tired yet. Are you tired?
No, not yet. I mean, my shoulder kind of hurts, but I think that's from something else.
Shit, I'm not even a Republican. I'm not tired.
Shit, this ain't even my whole night.
And then you got Democrats. He'll be impeached within the first year.
Oh,
6
of course
months.
he will be.
We give him 6 months at least.
Oh, my cats are alive. All right. So we got this third clip here for U.S. politics. This is a little bit outside of this whole Rosie O'Donnell bullshit story. Let's switch gears. Donald Trump signed a pretty important executive order this week. It's getting a lot of news traction. We should probably talk about it. It's the Right to Try bill.
A victory for freedom lovers everywhere. President Trump today signing a right to try bill that allows people diagnosed with life-threatening illnesses to finally try experimental medicines not yet approved by the FDA. Watch.
As I proudly sign this bill, thousands of terminally ill Americans will finally have the help, the hope, and the fighting chance, and I think it's going to be better than chance, that they will be cured.
That was a promise from his State of the Union speech, and
Yes,
that
it
was
was.
just a couple of months ago, and boom, look at that.
Oh yeah, he's a man of his word. If he's anything,
Yeah, I'll
he'll
give
do
him
what
that.
he says he's going to do.
That's why everybody gets so triggered by him, because he's like, oh yeah?
Here, hold my beer.
So,
Right.
have you guys been on the Twitters, the tweeters, the tweeters, the twatter this week?
Oh no, I haven't been on the Twitter this week. I've been elsewhere.
Oh, so you didn't hear about the meltdown?
What meltdown? Who?
They canceled Roseanne, bro.
What? My
So-
heart is broken in a million
So
pieces right now.
here's the story. Apparently, Roseanne sent out a tweet, said something along the lines of, Valerie Jarrett, or excuse me, if Muslim Brotherhood and Planet of the Apes had a baby, it would equal Valerie Jarrett. Now, being racist is not funny, but to be fair, when you look at a picture of the female doctor from Planet of the Apes, they look a lot alike. Let's be real.
They do. There's lots of other pictures that people have pushed for years, like there was the bush next to the monkey. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's
Now let's just say this right now. I understand there's a lot of stigma between black culture and getting compared to a monkey. We're not doing that here. We understand that that's racist.
Indeed.
What we're saying here is that she's human and she looks like this character from this movie who happens to be a half human ape.
And another thing, comparing presidents to monkeys or apes or anything of that sort kind of seems to be a tradition that's been going on since, I don't know, Photoshop was invented, maybe?
You know, it's funny you should mention that because Wanda Sykes actually tried to make a joke about Donald Trump looking like an orangutan, and that did not go over so well.
Oh.
Do you remember that minor meltdown?
I do.
Let's take a trip down memory lane. I got that clip right here.
Sorry, that was 20, right?
Yes, sir.
Believe that Donald Trump won. I couldn't believe that we have elected an orangutan to run the country. I couldn't believe it. I was like, you fucking kidding me?
And now they're
They
booing.
voted for an orangutan? This is ridiculous.
Nobody's clapping.
I mean, it's Wanda Sykes. Why would you clap to begin with? Isn't she just always that bit character in all those movies?
Yeah. Well, right after that, man, I can't believe that clip didn't get pulled through all the way. That clip includes a segment where she's telling the audience to shut the fuck up.
Ooh.
She gets pissed. Her audience starts talking back to her. She's standing there going, "Fuck you! I don't care." And she literally gets booed off the stage.
Oh, man.
Wow.
We should have got that.
Now, I want you to understand, Wanda Sykes was one of the producers for Roseanne. And she was one of the biggest people talking about how it needs to be pulled off the air, this and that. So it's kind of interesting to see the compare and contrast between the two. All right.
Crazy.
Moving right.
Roseanne, bro, she's kicking it in Salt Lake City, man.
Nice. Go get an autograph, man.
She was like, screw all this Hollywood bullshit. I'm going to kick it where it's cool in Salt Lake.
Right. All right. Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey
the man is
Weinstein.
A menace. Let's be real.
Indeed, he is.
We knew this day was coming, and he's been officially indicted. We did the report that he had turned himself in. Let's go ahead and do this follow up. This talks about everything from when he turned himself in last week.
Queuing up.
The indictment was handed up just hours after Harvey Weinstein's attorneys told prosecutors he would not testify before the grand jury in this case. After Weinstein turned himself in, as you mentioned, to police on Friday on rape and criminal sex charges. Excuse me. He was arrested, cuffed, arraigned, and released on $1 million bail. Now, the judge gave him until yesterday to decide if he would testify before the grand jury. Weinstein's legal team asked District Attorney Cyrus Vance for more time to prepare him, but his lawyers say that request was denied, so they advised him not to testify.
He looks rough
Weinstein
right now, man.
is charged with 2 counts of rape as well as first-degree criminal
Like he
sexual
aged
act.
a decade.
He could get 25
wonder
years in
why.
prison if convicted. The charges involve 2 women here. His lawyer,
cocaine.
Benjamin Braffman, has said the encounters with both women were consensual. The DA released
Must
a
be off
statement
the wallet
yesterday
sauce.
which reads in part this: the defendant's recent assault on the integrity of the survivors and the legal process is predictable. We are confident that when the jury hears the evidence, it will reject these attacks out of hand. Weinstein continues to deny the charges. He's scheduled to be back in court on July 30th, Sandra.
Laura, Weinstein's legal team is gearing up for a vigorous defense. What's the latest on that?
Well, Braffman spent 90 minutes in a judge's chambers this week with the assistant district attorney handling the case to discuss his concerns that Weinstein would be able to get a fair trial. Braffman issued a statement yesterday which reads in part, Mr. Weinstein intends to enter a plea of not guilty and vigorously defend against these unsupported allegations that he strongly denies. We will soon formally move to dismiss the indictment, and if this case actually proceeds to trial, we expect Mr. Weinstein to be acquitted. Weinstein is also under investigation in Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, and London, with up to 80 women who have accused him of various acts of sexual misconduct.
80.
80. That casting couch has a fucking patina.
Oh God. That's not a. Oh.
So you notice that they mentioned it once again. We come up against that problem of jury contamination.
Yeah.
Because it's a celebrity case. Like, this is one of the biggest problems in our modern justice system is finding a jury to try people with.
It's the same thing with OJ. It's like how
Yep.
you got to find people who are living under rocks, people who are living in the out in the middle of nowhere, disconnected from the world, no internet, no cable, no television, no none of that, just them and ham radio or something. Just in order to be able to try these people. Well, not try them, but actually have a proper jury to be able to review the case and make their
I
decision.
don't know. And many better minds than mine have thought about it. Well, there's a lot of terrible news that we just listened to. Roseanne got canceled. Harvey Weinstein turned himself in, which is great, but he's out on bond. So I think we need a palate cleanser before we leave the audience for the week. I don't think we can leave them alone like that.
Oh yeah.
So, there's a yearly event that's right around the corner. Have you heard of Manhattan Henge? I think I mentioned it to you before, and it was the first time you'd ever heard of it.
This is now the second time I've ever heard of it.
Have you heard of Manhattan Henge, Political there?
I have not.
So, a couple of years ago, physicist Neil deGrasse Tyrone. Did I say that right? Tyrone. My bad. Neil deGrasse Tyson. He took a really famous photo on his social media where he managed to catch the sun showing down I think it's Broadway in New York. And this has become a really popular tourist attraction every year now. So go ahead and play the clip so we can kind of experience what it's like to see Manhattan Henge.
All right.
Check that out. Look at all the people.
Wow.
Yeah, they didn't go to the Stonehenge to do that.
That was very.
That's kind of cool, right?
Yeah, it is. That was really cool. Wow.
Nice little palate cleanser before we, let people go for the week. That's pretty much the end of our show. I want to take a moment, since we have some time here, to just say, we do this as a community collaboration. I do a lot of the work on the show notes, and Boss does a lot of our production stuff, and we are hosts and everything. But we've got people that help us with graphics and
Davy
sourcing
Jones.
videos. Yep, Davy Jones. We've got our chat moderators. We've got a lot of content contributors when it comes to this production, and you guys are welcome to join us, submit clips, and ask us to cover things. We do our production meetings are moving to Wednesdays now instead of Thursdays. You're more than welcome to join us on our Discord, which will be linked in the description this week. I've been neglecting to get it into the description the last couple of weeks, but I will have it in there from now on. We will have our link collection, as it were, in there.
Word.
Oh yeah, thanks everybody out there in the community who's helping us out with this. This would not be happening without you guys.
So that being said, if you are watching live, this is the end of our live broadcast. But if you're listening or watching on YouTube, you've got some dessert to look forward to.
All right.
You want to take us out?
Yeah, I think we'll go ahead and get ourselves taken out here then. Let's see.
Don't do that.
Not like that.
Get whacked.
Oh no, we won't get whacked like that. All right. Once again, I want to say thank you all to everybody who's a part of this, everybody who we just thanked. We're thanking again. Again, a double special thank you to Davy Jones for all the graphics that he does, everything that he does for us. We appreciate that. Shout out to Enoch for the news blast. Shout out to I Am Because We Are, just because. Shout out to Political for being awesome. Punished Magma, solid Maga, you fucking rock. Love you guys. Be sure to get involved, speak up a little bit more, be loud, make noise if you have to, do everything that you need to do, get things taken care of, have fun out there, and we'll see you all next week. Don't forget to buy water, ladies. Yeah, don't forget to buy water, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. I suppose we could go into other Discords and plug it, but I'm not too stressed about it right now. Let me run over to Pirates. Tell them that that's happening.
And our stream is in the green.
Okay. Looks like we might have a pretty sparse chat today. Maybe we need to get some people on promoting now that we've got like a few podcasts under our belt.
Sounds like a good idea.
All right, let's take a look at the text chat. I love that Forrest Gump meme that you got. That shit's hilarious.
Gotta love the frogs, man.
Oh, dude, it's the best. You know, for being a Seattleite, like I really don't drink much coffee. I got a cup of tea here with me, ready to keep me going through the show.
It's got a bottle of purified water, and it's not even the good kind. Hill Country Fair.
I have a bottle of tap water, so I'm definitely decreasing my IQ as we speak.
Oh man, you gotta. That's doing stuff to your what is it? Your adrenal gland or something.
Pineal gland. It's calcifying my pineal gland.
See, what you want to do is you want to decalcify your pineal gland, and what you got to do is you got to try it with our super male vitality. That's what's gonna work. Right there. That's.
Let me tell you, brother.
Oh yeah.
Would be his spokesperson for super male vitality. Ugh.
Imagine my shock.
I think our levels are good. I think, you know, it might be kind of a light day for us. Do you think maybe we should give it another, like, 10 minutes? See how people go, or, like, 5 minutes or so?
I mean...
Just get started.
Whatever you say. Whatever you feel.
We did say we were going to start at 5, so we are kind of just, like, moseying around right here. Maybe we should look for a live only clip. Is that a possibility? Is that a thing we're allowed to do?
Possibility to get a what?
Is that a possibility? We could do a live only clip, right?
Yeah, that works.
Let's take a look at this. You know, since we're doing this just for the live audience, you know, everyone really wants to know what Hillary's up to, right?
I believe they do.
Yeah, like nobody's heard from her in a while, right? Oh wait, I forgot. We hear from her every week. Let's hear about her new career aspirations.
Okay. Where's our link?
I think we got, where is that? HRC says Sinclair Broadcasting is propaganda.
Oh, duh. Just gotta stop being.
Should be a link in there for she wants to be the Facebook CEO.
Ooh, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Let's see. And we are at... Boom.
Quick lightning round here, okay? But one question I did want to ask you is, if you could be a CEO of any company right now, what would you choose and why?
Facebook.
Does she look rigid to you?
Yeah, like there's a back brace.
I just want to add, it's the biggest news platform in the world. I mean, we can listen to really brilliant, experienced writers like David Ignatius and, you know, try to keep up with the news. But most people in our country get their news, true or not, from Facebook. Now, Facebook is trying to, you know, take on some of the unexpected consequences of their business model. And I, for one, hope that they get it right.
Oh, the cringe.
Because it really is critical to our democracy that people get accurate information on which to make decisions. And so, yeah, that's the one I'd pick.
Oh, man, it's really critical to our democracy that people start telling you how ridiculous you sound. Oh, my God, that man. His teeth.
Oh, yeah.
He's a great dude, though, but that is a Grand Canyon. Oh, but no. Hillary is cracking me up. I cannot believe that she wanted to be Facebook CEO. I mean, I guess I can, considering the fact that, you know, we're hearing about all the FBI informants and the FISA abuse and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. It's just abhorrent. Therefore, it's shocking.
Well, I mean, granted, if she were to become Facebook CEO, the teens would just go elsewhere. I mean, which they already are, so.
Yeah, I guess so. All right. Well, I guess we could just start getting into the drop proper. You want to go ahead and play some music? Just quiet, like we had before.
Oh yeah. Let's continue keeping up there.
All right. So we're going into this like we just finished our main show. All right. Well, if you haven't joined us before, welcome to the drop. This is our after show.
very, very good after show. We've got a lot of stuff that we're going to cover today with this. Stuff that didn't make it into the main show.
Let's see here. Why don't we start with some volcano news that's not from the U.S. I think we got a clip in there. It shows some ash from the Indonesian volcano that just went off. What is that? The Merapi volcano?
All right, queuing up.
Now, there's no audio for this clip. They don't actually show any like commentary or anything. But this did come out of RT, and they're the first major news outlet that actually released any footage from the area. There's large billowing ash clouds coming out of the mountain, and it reminds us a lot of Hawaii if they didn't have any rainfall.
That looked kind of ooh.
It looked like it snowed, right?
Yeah, it did.
It's like God's ashtray.
And one asked the question whether or not that place actually is God's ashtray. But no, it's not.
Hey, boss, do you remember the last time you reset your router?
No, actually. I haven't. In a while.
Neither do I. Apparently, one of the biggest issues in tech right now, at least in home internet technology, is that people are not resetting their routers, and a lot of these updates that are being pushed out for firmware on board the routers aren't actually getting updated. So you find people taking advantage of vulnerabilities that could have been patched out very frequently. And so it looks like the news is doing a big PSA on that.
All right, let's listen.
The FBI now issuing this new urgent warning about all of our Wi-Fi routers. Don't know what a router is? If you have Wi-Fi, you have one of these. It's how you get the Wi-Fi.
Do you have a router, boss?
Russian hackers
I got a router.
Are breaking into home and small
Probably
office
bigger than yours.
Wi-Fi routers to collect your personal information, look through what you're doing online, even disable your Wi-Fi. Apparently, according to experts, over 500,000 routers have already been hit in several countries.
Worldwide? 500,000 routers affected worldwide?
Oh my God.
That's such an astronomically crazy number.
Including the United States. So how do you protect yourself from this? It's really easy, guys. Some of the easiest advice I've ever given you. Experts say all you have to do is unplug it. Unplug it for 30 seconds.
Oh my God.
You know the drill. You plug it back in, you get the lights back on.
No, Mom. All you gotta do is just unplug it. Just unplug it, Mom.
Disables the hack.
No.
But there's something else the FBI wants you to do. They want you to change your Wi-Fi network password and also update any firmware that's available on your router. You'll see it pop up on your app or on your computer when you log in. So let's review. Unplug it. Plug it back in. Change your Wi-Fi password. Update firmware. You're good to go.
Thanks, NBC.
Your Wi-Fi password is still 1234 Awesome Town.
Actually, no. I changed it to 12345.
That's like the password an idiot would have on their luggage.
Oh yeah.
Right. Factory reset or reboot.
Oh yeah.
I've seen videos that are talking about doing factory resets.
Uh-huh.
But honestly, this is the story that's going on with most of the news media. Just to respond to chat room there. All right, so moving right along, we might as well skip like 20 seconds into this clip because it's a bit long. Looks like the news media wanted to take this source clip to rip on Donald Trump for attempting to sing the national anthem.
So wait, you're telling me that we're going to skip this?
No. The first 20 seconds or so is just dead air. You'll see. They don't say anything. He's not doing anything. And they zoom
I haven't
in
gotten
on
my
him
daily
and
dose of the Star Spangled Banner yet, so.
You got it. Mattis doing his best to look as real as possible, even though he looks like Grumpy Grandpa. Gotta love him though.
I want to go home. I don't want to be here right now.
It reminds me of kids in church, right?
My feet hurt.
And here he goes. It's his favorite part of the song, right? Like he only like really knows how to sing the part, his favorite part of the song. Shit, I couldn't sing the full Star Spangled Banner right now if you asked me to. At least not well. I'd fuck up at least 3-4 words.
Oh, look at that.
He's just one of us, right? I don't know. It's kind of a humanizing moment for the president, I think.
Oh, yeah. I'd have to agree there, and it also goes to show that lag can happen even in real life.
CNN was reporting that Donald Trump didn't know the words to Star Spangled Banner and acted like they were deeply offended. But I believe last week they were complaining that players were now no longer allowed to kneel on the field for the national anthem. So I don't know why they're so upset about it.
It's like what's the word I'm looking here? It starts with a D. Maybe it's 2 words. Deflection. No, I'm pretty sure we'll think of it later.
All right, so we already talked about Hillary earlier. Did you hear about the new Melissa McCarthy movie with the puppets?
Which puppets?
Well, apparently there's this new Melissa McCarthy buddy cop movie that's out, and she has a puppet as a partner. Well, Sesame Street's not so happy about that because that puppet is the same level. Did you see Ted?
Yeah, I saw Ted.
Dude, that puppet is like just as raunchy as Ted.
Ted, but puppets. Let's see.
Now with the battle brewing over a new movie that have the creators of Sesame Street suing. ABC's Diana Sato is here to explain. Good morning, Diane.
Good morning to you. So one of these is a popular children's show. The other is a movie very much made for adults. But Sesame Street's creators say the Happy Time Murders trailer makes it seem like the two are associated. And while the movie's characters may look like they could be on Sesame Street, their behavior, not so much.
Like they have to show us what the difference is.
How to get to the nearest courtroom? Yep, it's a legal battle between the sweet Sesame stars and the foul-mouthed puppets of the upcoming movie, The Happy Time Murders.
Poster.
I'm in the FBI. Oh, yeah? What's that stand for? Big idiot?
The Melissa McCarthy film takes place in a world where humans and puppets coexist. Rated R for being so raunchy, we can't show you most of the trailer. These mean streets are nowhere near Sesame, and that's the problem. At issue, these 4 words in the trailer: no sesame, all street.
When you say no sesame, all street, and it's a movie that has puppets in it, automatically it creates brand confusion.
Sesame Workshop, the creator of the classic children's show, is suing the production company behind the film, STX, claiming they initiated a marketing campaign that seeks to capitalize on the reputation and goodwill of Sesame Street to market their movie. The film is directed by Brian Henson and executive produced by Lisa Henson, the son and daughter of the late legendary Muppet creator Jim Henson. So far, they have not commented. But STX Films issued a tongue-in-cheek statement from their fictional attorney, Fred Esquire, saying, "While we're disappointed that Sesame Street does not share in the fun, we are confident in our legal position. We look forward to introducing adult moviegoers to our adorably unapologetic characters this summer." A statement from a puppet attorney. That's a first for me, at least. Sesame's Workshop lawsuit asks for a jury trial, punitive damages, and that the movie change its advertising. The Happy Time Murders is set to hit theaters on August 17th, but the case is due back in court tomorrow, and they're asking for an injunction.
They may not need to have any more trailers.
That is true. They may do well off of this, but obviously that's not what Sesame Workshop is hoping for. They say they worry their reputation is being tarnished.
And you have Jim Henson's kids who are producing it and directing it.
They are both involved in this, which complicates that a little bit.
All right, thank you so much.
Ooh. Well then.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I thought that was going to be the clip of, the puppet jacking off and, squirting everywhere.
No, I don't think I could show that on cable TV. That's like later in the evening, like some kind of like softcore porn bullshit.
CNN After Dark. Yeah.
CNN. Full of.
Brought to you by the letter H for homicide.
Oh my god. All right, let's see here. So we got 2 more clips for the drop. looks like they're having a better problem with the Tesla autopilot again.
Again?
Well, you remember there's been a couple issues with it over the last year or so. It hit a couple different vehicles. Most of them are moving vehicles, though. This time's a bit different.
Tesla is in the spotlight tonight. Did the autopilot feature malfunction and cause this crash on a local freeway? CBS 2's Crystal Cruz is live in Culver City with some safety concerns. Crystal.
Hi, Pat. The driver was going 65 miles an hour when he crashed, and incredibly, he didn't kill anyone. But tonight, a consumer watchdog is calling on Tesla to fix some suspected problems. A sleek, black, sporty Tesla totaled, smashed underneath the back of a big red fire engine on the 405 freeway. The CHP says the driver survived and claimed he was using the autopilot feature when he crashed into a Culver City fire engine that was stopped on the freeway, helping another driver.
It looks
was
to
he
me,
not paying
at first
attention?
Impression, if autopilot was engaged,
the autopilot was
serious
engaged.
problem with a robot mechanism that Tesla has not fixed.
Jamie Court with Consumer Watchdog has been concerned about Tesla's autopilot feature following fatalities in China and Florida, where drivers crashed and died using autopilot.
Yep.
Which is that they can miss trucks that are in a color scheme that matches the background of the scene they're in, and the radar shoots under the truck.
Over the weekend in the Bay Area, the CHP says this driver told officers he was using the autopilot feature after he was found drunk, passed out behind the wheel. The CHP joked in a tweet the car was towed, didn't drive itself to tow yard. Carl Brower with Kelly Blue Book.
Such
I think
dad
autopilot,
joke.
the name itself, was some
Don't
people
call
were
an Uber,
criticizing because
wreck
it
your
maybe
Tesla.
suggested more than what it was really capable of.
Tesla
Break
sent
your
us the same
$100,000
statement
car.
regarding both recent incidents, saying autopilot is intended for use only with a fully attentive driver.
Then why is it called autopilot?
And Tesla can check the data to see if the car was indeed in autopilot. A spokesperson could not confirm if they had checked or if they were planning on checking. I'm Crystal Cruz in Culver City tonight. Back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you.
That would make more sense, actually. Drunk driving auto roulette.
Quite a bit, I think. So, we got one more. This is a nice one to close on, I think. A good laughing note to go out on. Hey, boss, do you remember the last time you bought a jet?
Last time I bought a jet? That was about 4 years ago. It was in a different area of Pakistan. I was hanging around with a group of people, a group of kids. They had no idea what they were doing. Turns out we were doing stuff in Sweden. I don't know why I said Pakistan. I don't know. I'm just bullshitting a lot of shit right there. I've never owned a fucking jet.
Well, apparently this pastor, he's just burning right through him for the Lord.
Oh,
for the Lord!
For the Lord. Lord loves his jets. Let's see.
You know, I've owned 3 different jets in my life, and used them and just burning them up for the Lord Jesus Christ.
Televangelist Jesse Duplantis says God himself told him it's time for an upgrade.
He said, I want you to believe me for a Falcon 7X. So I said,
A Falcon 7 jet like this one to preach to more people around the world. And he's asking his followers for the $54 million.
I really believe that if Jesus was physically on the earth today, he wouldn't be riding a donkey.
From his Louisiana headquarters, Duplantis is among a group of televangelists who preach that their wealth is God's will.
This preys upon the poorest people that want and need money badly, where they're told if they give money, God's going to bless them 100-fold.
Duplantis lives in a 35,000 square foot mansion, tax-free.
He's asking everybody who has less than he has to pay for this jet, and I don't get that, you know?
Fellow televangelist Kenneth Copeland recently bought a $36 million Gulfstream 5 jet.
Praise God. Isn't that good?
The two have commiserated about how they can't fly or pray with commercial airline passengers.
This dope-filled world, you get in a long tube with a bunch of demons.
Right, that's exactly the
And it's deadly.
We asked Jesse Duplantis and his ministries for comment, but they declined to respond. So far, no indication whether he's received any contributions for his jet. Tom Costello, NBC News, Washington.
I really want a meme of them, like, just with fucking pimp jackets, bro.
Oh, God. Oh, this is not a good day for televangelists.
It's a good day for the show, though. Well, that's about it. That's the end of our show. If you're watching live, we're about to start the main show, so you're about to see the actual good part. Stick around.
This one's for you, Davy Jones.
Political should be joining us shortly. I love our credits. Oh, they're so amazing.
Takes a lot of people to make a show happen.
Yeah, no joke. A couple thank yous out. We got a nice dedicated team of Anons that are helping us source content. I do a lot of the work on the content sourcing myself. We use Enoch's News Blast to get a lot of our news topics for the week, as well as the work that at I Am Because We Are does on the Q Clearance Archive website that has a weekly news update on it. Been using all those to construct our show notes. So huge thank you to those guys. Thank you to Boss with me.
I'm here.
And thank you to our community. We really wouldn't be here without the rest of the community.
Oh yeah, if it wasn't for all of them, I'd still be doing nothing on a Friday night.
Exactly. Well, I guess we'll see you guys next week.